So thank you, Deshmukh Saab. Thank you, Arush, and thank you everybody else for organizing this event and also inviting me for this very important program. In a way, as Dr. Deshmukh pointed out earlier, it's a very unique program. Not many times we get an opportunity to talk on issues like this. And sometimes what is invisible is more dangerous than what is visible. So normally when you're fighting a war, you can see the sirens going around, you get into the bunkers, hide yourself. There is a bombardment happening, so you can see that there is a artillery going around, and therefore you can hear the voice of that. It's everything. But normally other wars which are fought are not at all making such noise. And as you said correctly, they're more effective, sometimes no cost or low cost, and therefore they need to be properly understood. So this is a very important issue, and I'm very glad that you organized it and invited me to address this program. I just want to catch a flight. That's why thank you for accommodating me to speak first, so I can do both, catch a flight as well as probably talk to all of you. So number one, as I said, the new world as it is emerging today is completely different than the world that we have seen in the past several thousand years. Firstly, the state, the concept of state itself was born much, much later than the human beings were born. We were all the time moving around, nomadic. We were always never settle in one particular place. So obviously, if people are moving from one place to another, and the entire population is floating population, the concept that now we are derived saying that there are citizens and there's a floating population. So therefore now this particular idea of state itself came much later, post agriculture revolution. And then when the state was formed, much later, the evolution of state has taken place. The state itself has undergone a sea change in terms of its concept, content, as well as the kind of instrument the state must possess to exercise its rights and make sure that the sovereignty is actually what is part of the state's fundamental feature is also exercised. While doing all that, importantly, we now, at least now, we accept that there are three arms of state normally, which is legislature, executive, and judiciary, which are equally important to make sure that they balance each other, there are checks and balances, and therefore they exercise the right in a manner that citizens are ensuring that they will be protected properly. The states, as you correctly said, then actually because they have such sovereign power, they can have the authority to have their own military, they have the ability to collect taxes to finance these militaries, they have the ability to enforce the rights of the citizens which they're supposed to have as an instrument of all the citizens, giving them those rights through either democratic process or sometimes in countries which don't have democracies, they exercise the right thing that first it's come from divinity or it has come because of their own commitment to an ideology. But whatever it is. Now this particular concept of state and exercising this through these three various arms of state itself is now in these modern times is undergoing some stress for two reasons. One, the civil society, which is actually a non-state actor. Civil society by definition is not part of the state. But at the same time, the civil society, non-state actors in any modern society have become very, very strong, very powerful, very knowledgeable. They have their own powers. For example, just imagine some of the top technology companies of the world are having their own top lines and their market caps, which are more than 95% of the country's GDPs. Not many countries, actually, if you look at G20, which is the 20 countries of the top 20 economies of the world, those for 21st country or downwards in another 170, 180 countries, none of the countries will have that GDP equivalent to any of these technology companies' top line or market cap. What does it mean? That is states, which are now in these economies also there are states, the smaller economies, who are not G20 economies, non-G20 economies. So these states don't have the economic power that some of these companies have got. And that shows that new emergence of power centers have happened over a period of time. And this also as a civil society organization because they're non-state actors. Again, there are some organizations which have become so powerful because of their ability to influence public opinion, and that's media. So what has happened is, in the course of last several decades, this new emergence of power center is now putting some stress on the state itself. The state was thinking that we can exercise, all right, we can do this. But today, these non-state actors have become very powerful, effective, and also acceptable. So that's a very big challenging issue that we have to see. At the same time, we have to look at its implications on our lives. Now, one is, as I said, we always accepted that these three arms of state are important. But then we also accepted the fourth state is also important. If you don't have media, how can the expression of voice of the common citizens will happen? But then even then we are accepting that. And while there was some hesitancy on the part of several states in the world to accept that as another player with whom they can share some power. And while that was happening, over a period of time, in the particularly last few decades, and particularly in the last decade, the social media has become very powerful. And now social media has now provided a new tool, a new power which can be excelled by every citizen. So earlier you had to write to a newspaper, letter to editor. And if they are willing to publish it, that's the only way you could express yourself through the media. Of course, there were other ways of expression of your own ideas. You could go to judiciary, file a habeas corpus if you are arrested wrongly. You can make writ petitions to the court and say that my fundamental right is affected, so I must have. But that was one. You could go to a legislator whom you are elected and make a representation. You can go to the executive and make a representation. That was always there. But non-state actors through whom you could express your face was this media, the traditional media. And now this new emergence of social media is another very important aspect, which is non-state actors playing a big role. Now, when you say non-state actors, normally they have some ability and they work in tandem in some way. Now, the social media is a completely new animal. Every person is holding not a pen anymore in his hand, but just has a smartphone or any other gadget in his hand, can just keep on expressing himself or herself, and that becomes a new expression way that has been available. So today we have to look at this whole scenario, which has emerged as a new challenge to the traditional structures and systems which has been prevailing in this world for a while. And these so-called modern democracies, therefore, will have to deal with it in a very different way. Now, coming to this today's very important issue. Wars are not only fought, as we know, during this post-industrial evolution, as they're saying, yes, there are different kind of a structured wars. But wars have always been fought. Even when the state was not created, state was not assumed the role of a state as it's known today, the people are fighting for territories, sometimes fighting for getting a woman from other tribe into my fold. Genghis Khan, actually, very interestingly, in fact, his wife was stolen, and therefore he went and he was nobody. So he just went to fight with a neighboring tribe who had taken his wife, and that's how the sense came in. And then he, of course, created one of the world's biggest empire. This was Genghis Khan's empire. But what I'm saying is, therefore, the wars have been fought for many reasons, even before the states were created. But post states are created, post industrial evolution, this so called military industry complex, as particularly in the US, they are very popularly and, of course, notoriously called. And therefore, this particular concept is war is not a new phenomena. It's always been there, and now, of course, it has assumed a new role. And in this context today, we have to see how do you make now this new war, which is fought on the screen, on the gadget, and sometimes not even seen because it is indoctrination. The idea can be planted in your mind, And therefore the mind gets completely corrupted or sometimes influenced, if not corrupted. And that particular influence can be more powerful than the territory that you acquire through the war, or the kind of influence that you can exercise by having a stronger military. And that is one new challenge that we are all to face. And as you correctly said, we are surrounded by such vicious neighbors and such challenging times that we are going through. And not only the neighborhood is the only way we should look at this war, which is now what we are talking about, a war through civil society. This can be fought without having a border closer to your place. The Americans have been saying that there has been an election interference by the Russians in their elections. Now the Europeans are saying, yes, this is possible, that there is now, in fact, the 2024 election, which will happen in US in the next 6 months. They are saying Chinese are actually influencing and interfering the election. So just imagine, where is China, where is Russia, and where is United States? So nothing called neighborhood anymore when you look at such challenges that we really talk about. But this is a new emerging threat coming not from known state actors, but from others who are not traditionally known as having the right to possess that power. They don't have it either given by the constitution, given by any law, or given by any other structured system, but they exercise a much wider power. And this is what we should be really concerned about. Now, therefore, we have to really, based on this, as I said, I have to clarify, but this is important issue, and I'm sure we'll deliberate on it. I just want to flag off one point, Deshmukh Saab, if you permit me, and that is that when we say that all NGOs are not good, is something which we have to distinguish between the two. Because, if you look at India, or look at our context, many public good providers are NGOs. In rural areas, a lot of good work that happens in education, in healthcare, in rural development, even leprosy program. In fact, Baba Amte is a good example, who has been running Anandvan program in Maharashtra. Or actually, there are many, many thousands of people. In fact, I'm very happy that our Prime Minister is now honoring such people who are who is not known at all. And now they are getting Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, etc. for the good work that they're doing. Now, what are they? Are they not non-state actors? They are individuals. Sometimes they may be organized and they may be working and they may be doing something which is actually speaking the duty of a state to perform that. But because the state is not able to do as much as it is required, these are the people or the organizations who are providing it. Therefore, we should try to very clearly distinguish between NGOs are necessary, important. When we say RSS is the largest NGO of the world, it's a cultural organization. So just imagine. And because of RSS, thousands, tens of thousands of good organizations are working on the ground. And they're doing phenomenal work. I mean, I have personal experience of doing that. And therefore, I'm saying we should try to distinguish between non-state actors. When we say some are good, some are not so good, we should be able to distinguish them. So we cannot generalize, but also must have the ability to find out and distinguish between the good and the bad. And therefore, this again is a very important challenge. Now, who will do this? This is another important issue. I'm happy Doval Saab, Ajit Doval Saab has flagged up this very, very important issue. And of course, we should be all very proud that Doval Saab is the National Security Advisor. I know him for years, and I'm very happy that he has really kept us secured, not only just last one decade, but even before, while working in various other capacities. So why he has flagged off a very important issue. So therefore, when I'm saying that all NGOs are not bad, then who will decide who is a good NGO and a bad NGO? We must also think about this forum like this, some mechanism to actually make this distinction very properly and also in a very objective manner. Otherwise, we'll actually allow the good to die with small little bad that has surfaced. And therefore, we should not let that happen. But we must work very carefully about the new threat that has emerged. And I am sure this is a very, very important issue. Very, very subtly, somebody can actually come and plant these ideas. And as you have correctly said, many times these foreign funded NGOs have caused a tremendous harm and also irreparable damage to our functioning of the society, as well as putting some wrong ideas in the mind of the people, which is still worse than actually the tangible damage they can cause. And therefore, we must be conscious and we must be working on this. But as I said, while working consciously, also must be cautious about making sure that we do not allow the good NGOs to suffer because of these things. So thank you very much. And I am very, very sure that this challenging time that we are all in, wherein the military will of course protect our borders, but non-uniform soldiers who operate very subtly, very discreetly, without even being noticed and without even being known as the soldiers, they are causing and probably likely to cause even more damage as we go along. So we must work on all these. So thank you very much for first inviting me, secondly allowing me to speak first, and also give a benefit from this audience experience, which of course I will get afterwards, and also I will benefit from it. Thank you very much.